Hello, you, and you. And welcome to Silent No More, the podcast and radio show with Dr. Monica. I am Dr. Monica, and I'm so excited that you decided to join us this Saturday morning. And I'm glad that you're with us every single Saturday at 10 a.m. Okay? And hopefully, if you've not been tuning in, you will start because that's the goal of this show, to have people listen and watch and all the things. But I'm going to be honest. So, the last couple of months, my life has been a whirlwind. It's been a whirlwind. I don't know if you noticed the background. I don't even know which way to go because my background is completely different. But I bought a house. So let me tell you what happened. During one of the January shows, I talked about the importance of setting goals, having an accountability partner, creating vision boards. I had the Get Back Girls on my show. We talked about how we come together to hold each other accountable for what we want to do for the year. We reflect on last year, all the things. And let me tell y'all what's been happening, honey. So I had a few things on my vision board. And of the few things, 4 have already come into fruition. They've already manifested. So one thing I put on my vision board, and it's crazy because stuff just falls on my lap. It just falls into my lap. But anyway, one thing that I said I put on my vision board was to get back into public speaking, pouring into people, going back into that work with women and people in general. And so since January, since my vision board was plastered across my restroom, I have had 4 speaking engagements that basically fell into my lap. And I have 2 more, one in May, one in June, and then I was approached about one in September. And what's crazy is these are people I don't even know. So they've heard about my work with school, and they've heard about my work with ministries, with women, with whatever, and they want me to come, little old me. But I put that on my vision board, and I wasn't actually prepared. I just put it up there for something I could accomplish later on, but it's like it just started falling into my lap. And then I put a home. So I already own my other home, but I wanted to buy, because y'all know I had Zach and Alexa on the show in January as well, and they talked about their real estate investment company and all the things. And I said, I just need to leap. Like, I just need to swallow the fear and leap. And so I said, I'm going to do it. So I contacted my friend, and she was like, okay, girl, well, what do you want? I was like, well, I don't know. I haven't really thought that far. And she said, okay, so let me show you some houses. So we went to see 2 houses, and there was this one house in the Summit that I absolutely loved. I love that house. Now, it wouldn't have been conducive for my grandchildren. You know, I love them so much, even though I don't have any yet, but I love them. But I was thinking I need a larger backyard, but that's okay. That's okay. At least I have the house that I want until I have my grandchildren. But I was outbid, that fell through. And then I was like, well, maybe I can redevelop a home, and I can live on one side, and then I can have somebody else live on the other side. I can charge them rent, yada, yada, yada. I went into that space, and it was a disaster. I would have been scared to live there. It was in a wonderful neighborhood. I would have been scared to live there. And so years and years ago, I thought, you know what? I'm not worthy of what I'm about to tell you. I'm not worthy, because I was told I was never going to be anything, that I wasn't going to amount to anything. So why would I ever be able to get something brand new? So I bought my first brand new car a couple of years ago. And I was like, what? I can get a brand new car? What? They're like, well, yeah, your credit is A1. Like, and you have all this. I was like, really? I can get a brand new car? And then my friend said, with the interest rates being so high and with the market being upside down, your best bet would be to buy a new build. And I said, I can buy a new build? What? I can do that? And she said, yeah, why not? So we went one Sunday, went to a meeting one night. My heart wasn't right, but something got a hold of me. But anyway, I'm just kidding. But I went to, we went to a couple of homes on a Sunday, and I fell in love. I said, I love this house. And so she said, well, let's go look at these other houses too. So we went to see a couple of other houses. And so I was like, well, I love, this is the same model as the other neighborhood, right? And she said, well, yeah, it's the same model. I said, but it's closer to my school. I said, well, how much is this? So she told me how much it was. I said, okay, I can afford that. Long story short, within 4 weeks, I was able to close on my house. Can you see? I was able to close my house. So those are 2 things. And then I had something else on there, but I'm gonna have to hold off until they act right all the time, and then y'all can be introduced to that person. But it's been a great ride this year so far. I was able to write the vision and make it plain. So I've been really, really busy and not able to record the podcast every week. So what I did was I went to the archives. I went to my August shows, and I showed them or submitted them for them to be on all of the podcast platforms. And so you may have heard some information about preparing for the release of my book and all that kind of stuff. My book has been released. It is called Daughter in the Shadows. There are 4 themes within the book. The first theme is dealing with childhood trauma. The second is teenage pregnancy. The third is living with domestic violence in silence. And the last one is life after divorce. You can find those books on my website, drmonicahunter.com, amazon.com, and barnesandnoble.com. I promise you will not be in a space where you're not entertained. You'll need tissue. You'll need somebody to laugh with, whatever, because you'll feel all the things, all the emotions. You'll feel all the emotions. But it's already been released. So if you're like, wait a minute, her book has already been released. Yeah, that's why I was airing old shows. But anyway, let's get to tonight's show. It's tonight in real life, but it's Saturday morning to you. So let's get to this morning's show. We have 2 wonderful guests who are going to speak up about co-parenting. So if y'all remember the show last week, Life After Divorce, we talked about the importance of having healthy co-parenting relationships, and not just with the parent to child, but both parents need to have a healthy relationship as well, because that cultivates who your child will be in a relationship later on. They're looking at their mother and their father to develop who they are in a relationship in life. So make sure you're healthy with them, but you're also healthy around them. And so I was talking to one of the guests a couple of months ago, and she said, oh, you know what? We have a wonderful co-parenting relationship, and yada, 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 yada. I said, I've got to have you on my podcast. And then life happened. I was like, I need to have y'all on the podcast this week. So I'm going to go ahead and bring them on the screen. We have Robert Berry and Tamara Davis. Yay! All right.
Hello,
welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're okay? You doing okay this morning? I keep doing that. I do it every time.
It's okay.
I know. I'm not perfect. Only 99.9% of the time. All right. So, Robert, can you tell the audience about you and anything you would want to share about yourself?
Sure. I'm Robert Berry. I'm born and raised here in Louisville, Kentucky. UK grad. Went to Male High School in Louisville, but up in UK, I've got a degree in finance. Also have an MBA. Right now, I work as a senior director of financial planning and analysis. Been doing it.
I was going to offer you a job. We have a business teacher position available. I was going to offer you a job. Engineering too. If you would like to go that route. No.
Part-time? You got part-time?
No. No. Wah, 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 wah.
No. But yeah, outside of my day job, I also am a co-owner of a in-home healthcare or in-home health agency called Home Helpers. So
I love that. How long have you been in business?
2 years. So it'll actually be 2 years in July.
I was thinking about tapping into that industry. I have a friend in Indianapolis who does that. She does everything. She owns semi-trucks. She has a warehouse. She does all the things, but she's tapped into that as well. And she said that's something I might want to consider doing when I have a moment. I don't know. I don't want to be able to do all this stuff, but yeah, I might need to reach out to you later on and see how we can
just let me know.
Knowledge on that.
Definitely keeps you busy. But yeah, we got caregivers that go out and help elderly folks and run errands, do light housekeeping, help them out, take baths, things like that.
Yeah.
And then my other side thing is real estate. So
a
couple houses, a couple apartment buildings. So I know you said you got a nice following. I'll have a couple of houses and a couple of apartments here available in the next probably 30 days. So Anybody need anything, reach out.
Yes. How can they reach out to you? Email address.
rqberr@gmail.com.
Okay.
I'm also on Facebook, but I'm not on there too often. So
he's not really great with the social media.
Yeah.
How old are you? You and your what? I'm just kidding.
41.
And you're not into social media?
No, I never really got into it. I guess I was too late to the game. I just got my page about a year ago. So.
Oh, really? Are you serious?
Yeah. He doesn't do anything.
So I was just talking to a couple of people earlier today. I'm going to start working with a local real estate developer to get a group of Black women together to share knowledge on real estate investment and developing. And so it'll be nice to have a collective to glean from that. Right. But anyway, a couple of businesses that we'll discuss a different time. Tamra.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tamra Davis. I am 40, just turned 40 in December. I am, you didn't say nothing about Robert, about Jim.
What did I say?
I'm talking about our son, Robert. We are the parents of Robert Berry.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
He's in there eating now. That he is my only son. He's 16 years old. Other than that, I am an educator. I'm an 8th grade counselor at the Du Bois Academy,
and she's everything, everybody. Go ahead.
This is my 14th year in education. I do love what I do. I do love it with a passion. I don't have all the side hustles, but definitely aspire to have, as my son said, Mom, you need to get you a multiple stream of income. And I said, okay, son. And I haven't. So, but I will, because he motivates me. Obviously, Robert Sr. motivates me and is willing to support me in anything. That's what I have.
I love it. So, y'all, I love Tamra. At first, I didn't know. So I am the principal at Du Bois Academy, and she's a counselor. And I loved how open she was to give critical feedback. You know, people give critical feedback. You don't know where the heart is, but her heart was in the work. And so it was wonderful to get to know her. Now we sing all the time. We have church. What about the song I sang today at the end of, at the end of service, at the end of the school day? Did you hear it?
I did. As I was getting on another student, and then you started singing. I said, "Child."
I'm a friend of Tarkai. He calls me friend. Anyway, we're not talking about that tonight. We're talking about co-parenting and how that has impacted your life. And we're going to pour into other people who may have experienced toxic examples of co-parenting as I did. So I have a few questions for you all. So I'm sure everybody's trying to figure out, how did you two initially get acquainted? How did y'all meet?
I'll take this one. The easy question. So as he said, he went to the University of Kentucky. I went to the University of Louisville, but I'm from Lexington. I didn't say that. And so when I moved here from Lexington, I had some friends that I knew that were in a grade year higher than me in college. But I ended up meeting my best friend, Kanisha, his first cousin, at U of L. And once I met her, with her being a native from here, she immediately just took me in, me not having my family here in the city. And so I got to be around her family, and then in turn ended up meeting Robert Berry. I call him Bob. I can't do this. Look, I'm going to say it because I tried as hard as I could. But Robert is my son, and this is Bob. So this Bob is dad. So ended up meeting him that way. We talked for a little while, and then he was still at UK. We did like a distant, like it's not really long, but somewhat of a long distance thing. And then he ended up moving back here. And then we immediately moved in together and ended up having Robert at the time. Anything I'm missing, Bob, Robert?
Did you want to add anything, Bob?
No, I think you got it. That's it.
So it seems like things are pretty good. Y'all were able to come together, cohabitate, but something went awry. You don't have to go into details, but can you tell us a little bit about how that separation happened and how did Robert, how was he impacted with that separation? I know he was probably a little fella, but how did that go about?
You want to take that one too?
I can. So what I think both of us have always been is like transparent about our feelings and what we like, what we don't like. And at that time, we were young. So we were 20, I was 24 when I had Robert, and I believe Bob was as well. And Robert was about 4 years old, and you could just tell there was a disconnect between us.
So y'all together for 4 years?
Really 5.
5 years.
So,
Okay.
there was a disconnect because at the beginning when I said that he moved back from Lexington, and then we kind of just immediately we immediately moved in with each other. We didn't really have a dating phase where we really, really got to know each other. We knew each other through the family and through my friend, but truly getting to know one another and being young. So being 24 years old. So a lot of it was like fun and things of that nature, and we were playing family. And I think that it just kind of like caught up with us. There was a point where our vision of family and just life didn't align. He had things that he wanted to do, and I had things that I want, like what I valued, he didn't value as much, and then vice versa. And so there was a divide between us. But whenever we was around family, which was a lot of the time, we always was still like friends. And so one day I think we just decided like, yeah, this isn't working. He was like, you can have the house. I said, I don't want the house. I want you to have the house. I said, I'll get a house. He was very adamant about, where you're going to move to, because you ain't just moving anywhere. When am I going to have my son? He was just very adamant about all that. So he actually went with me to a couple of places to look for, because
that's nice. So it was very amicable.
Absolutely. Okay. The day that I actually moved out, or the day we were packing and stuff, it was almost like a party. I don't know if you remember that, Bob. It was like all of our friends was over there because we had a lot of house parties. They were there, and they and they were like sad and depressed, and we was just like having drinks and just enjoying life. Our moms was sad, and it was fine, but we just realized then. And so we, of course, you had the background noise of people like, well, you need to, do child support, you need to do this. And I just knew like, no, I know he is an amazing father, and I don't have to do that. We're going to split everything as far as like our time with our son. And then whatever I need and whatever he needs, we're going to be able to do that. And for Robert's sake, Robert Jr.'s sake. And so I don't know if you want to add to that, Bob, because I feel like that's kind of what happened there.
Yeah, no, that was good. I mean, it's like you said, probably being young and kind of jumping in there without really having the phase to get to know each other. I think that was probably what happened, and kind of what reared its head as we kind of progressed in the relationship. So, yeah.
So one reason why I wanted to do this show is I have a friend in New Jersey, and she's in a very toxic situation. I think they have a trauma bond. They keep coming together and then pulling apart, and they're putting the kids in the middle of it. And my situation wasn't that bad as far as what she's experiencing right now, but it was bad. And it was very toxic. And I tried my best to co-parent. I mean, I invited to birthday parties. I invited to different events I was hosting. I was inviting to all these things. And it was like I was treated like the outcast at my own events. Like, what in the world? So I think the difference is your breakup was amicable. Mine was not as amicable. It wasn't as positive. It wasn't as forthcoming. It wasn't as optimistic about where you two could be separate and together for the sake of your child. So do you think it could be possible for someone who's in a toxic parenting situation where they're not able to co-parent yet to eventually get to that space? And what advice do you have for people who are in that predicament as we speak?
I would just say it takes time. So you can't really put a definite timeline on either person as far as them being able to mature to that point. But it'll, I think it'll come as long as people are able to move on at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it right there. Because I believe the reason why some people can't co-parent is because they still have feelings a little bit. You know what I mean? Or maybe not even. Go ahead, Tamara. You about to say something?
Well, I wanted to make sure that I stated, because I know Bob would agree with this. And I speak highly of our situation and when we separated. And I'll be honest, I was very much okay with us splitting up, me moving out. But I will tell you, when other people get involved, so when another woman was involved, it did change how I felt, and it did interfere with the friendship. It wasn't always amicable. Let me just say that.
Okay,
But I will say that it did help knowing that we had shared connections. So we had I had my best friend and his cousin, and then our mothers are good friends, and that formed out of our relationship. And I think, and you might be able to add to that, like 2 times we might have gotten an argument. And it was because of me learning that he had moved on quickly. Would you say? Quickly.
Well, all right.
I think he had moved on quickly, at least in my eyes. But it was on my time, and I had to realize anything I would do or feel, I would run by my best friend, but that was his cousin. So she always kind of played devil's advocate with me and would talk to me. It's really good to have good friends in your life that can coach you and not coach you in the wrong direction, but coach you in the right direction. And so she was helpful in telling me okay, you said you didn't want this relationship, so why do you even care about this other woman being in his life? And I said, well, I didn't care. I didn't necessarily care that the relationship ended, but I didn't want Robert to meet someone so soon. He was 5 at that time, and I just felt like it's too soon for another woman to be in his life. His dad.
So it wasn't the feelings that you had about him having someone else. It was Robert having another woman in his life so quickly after he was used to you and his dad being together for so long.
Yes. Would you agree with that, Bob?
Let's see what Bob has to say.
I mean, I can't really speak for it. If that's how you felt, then yeah.
But what did she do?
The attitude that anytime that we did have a disagreement or an argument, it was because of your new relationship. Because it was never I want you back, or we never did any of that. It was more of how are you going to have this woman around, our son so soon, and who is this girl, this little girl?
Hoppo, who this woman? Hoppo.
Yeah, because really I learned about it through my son. He just started naming this girl, and it was really the other lady's daughter. And I said, who is this girl? And he couldn't tell me really at 5 years old. And so then I ended up learning about it. So I was like, for one, you couldn't tell me. I thought we were better than that. And then for 2, why is this happening so soon? And then she immediately moved in. So it was, to me, the timeline was quick, and the processing for a child to me was okay. To the point where I was like, oh, he's going to have a better bond or a stronger bond. Because, step parents or the other person comes in and they're the friendly ones. They're going to do all the things, you're going to still get mommy from me, but you're going to get the hugs and all those things. And you can do whatever you want, Junior. That's what I remember being said all the time to my son. And it used to bother me. But I would say it was only a couple of times that he and I even disagreed about that. And I was just like, you know what? I know I'm a great mom. I can let this go, and still this woman can be in his life.
So how was your communication, or how has your communication been throughout your co-parenting process?
It's gotten better over time for sure. I mean, like she said, I can't say it was a long span when it wasn't great, but once it got fine and once we got past the little hiccups, it's been fine. I mean, as long as we both know that we have Robert's best interest in mind, it makes it a lot easier, I think, to get on
Yeah.
the same page.
Yeah.
That's my
Has there
son
been-
sitting over here laughing.
Is
Like,
it?
he's over here like, yeah.
Have there been any, like you said, hiccups? Have there been any hiccups or issues with communication? Like one person wanted to do one thing, the other person wanted to do something else. Now there's a conflict. Have you ever had those issues, and how did you overcome them if you did?
I would say not really. We do a good job of trusting. At least this is my opinion. We do a good job of trusting the person who's closer or more familiar with the situation.
Okay.
We trust their judgment. So for a school choice, education, if she has a recommendation, she's a teacher. She was a teacher, now she's a counselor. I mean, I'll look into it, but for the most part, I trust their judgment for that type of thing. And then for other things, if we're choosing sports for the kids or we're choosing whatever, it's what he wants to do, and he can try them out. You know what I mean? So it's, I can't really think of anything where the communication's.
But that's important though. Like if you're willing to compromise, because a lot of times what I see in parenting is there's a dominant personality who wants to control everything, and the other one is trying to find their space in, or there's two dominant personalities and it's just like haywire all the time. But if you know the person that you have this child with, then you know their level of expertise. You know that they have the child's best interest at heart, unless they're a narcissist or they're they're bipolar, they have some other mental health issues. You know that they have the best interest at heart. And if you're in finance and you're in real estate and you're an entrepreneur and he wants to start a business, he will go probably to his dad and take care of that. If it's something that has to do with school, with trying to figure out a way to cope with the situation, he may go to his mom. But it seems to me as if the communication and the decision making is open based on how you communicate with each other and your level of expertise with whatever you're communicating and deciding about, which is healthy.
Yeah.
Very healthy.
I think it's just, I don't know if it's just the math, finance brain that I have, but whatever makes sense. I go with logic. I don't.
You're a man. Men are logical. We're emotional, except for me.
Okay.
Except for her. I fully agree with what he said. And I think when it came to like having to compromise, there wasn't too much that we had to even compromise on. Like when we first split, like as far as time with Robert, first of all, with just without going into like anything about my life, but I knew that as a young girl not having, or a young child not having my father in my life my entire life, I knew that obviously you go in a situation hoping that you don't have a broken situation for your own child. You want better. When I realized that wasn't going to happen, I knew for sure that I don't know if you want to say chosen, but I had, the best example of a father in him. And, that Robert was his first child, but I knew because I saw the family that he was around, what family means to him and to them. So I never had to question, is he doing this? Is he doing what's best for Robert? And I think that he felt the same about me. And so then when it came down to, well, who's going to have him? Because it's 7 days in a week. So how are we going to split this evenly? Even with that, like we were down to holidays, wasn't we? Like I was at work one day and I had typed up like, okay, this is what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be. He looked at it. I looked at it. We struggled a little bit over Christmas, and even Christmas and Thanksgiving ended up being whatever we wanted it to be. And we have literally done that. Like I said, Robert was 4, going on 5, and he's now 16. And so we have stuck with that. So even if, Bob is taking the kids on a vacation, it's a full week. And, those are my days. A couple of those are my days. Like he'll just tell me in a little advance, that, we got a trip coming up. I'm going to need Robert for the week. And it's just like, cool. And I'll do the same. So we do compromise in ways like that. But when it comes to anything else, like I definitely, even though I'm, I guess, the expert in education wise, like I still, will defer to him. I mean, was top of his class. Like he's smart. He's a smart guy. Obviously, you hear
Clearly.
So I still lend to him on things, and then I think Robert sees how well we can do that, and then it just helps him as well.
That is awesome. I said at the very beginning of the show that who we are in the lives of our children molds who they are in relationships. And one reason why I stayed in my toxic relationship so long outside of trauma, it was because I did not want the same thing that you said earlier. I did not want my kids to experience a household without a father. So I stayed in a situation for 15 years. Hoping that things would get better, and they never did. And when I finally left, it was completely toxic. It didn't get any, and it's still not any better. It's still not any better. I've been divorced for 8 years, but it is what it is. And I chose to co-create with that person. So it is what it is. And since my kids are adults, we don't have to deal with each other. But I still respect him as my children's father, period, point blank in the period. And I don't allow anybody to say anything negative about him around me. I don't do any of the things. I wrote a book about it, though. So if you want to read and know all the things, you can buy the book. But I don't just sit around and talk about it, because I do respect him. And it seems like y'all have that level of respect for each other, which is vital. But you said something earlier about having outside noise, right? And so you broke up. There was somebody that came in, moved in. He's older now. That's when he was younger. He's older now. And there are no feelings. There's nothing there. It's you respect each other's space. You respect each other as his parents. What do you do when it's time to, or what have you done when it was time to introduce someone else into your healthy space? How did they respond? How did you respond to them? This is really where the rubber meets the road. It can be okay. And I think some people, it's okay because they're the sneaky link. Is that what they call it? They're still a little sneaky link. So we get along. I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna do my little sneaky link thing. And then somebody comes into the picture in real life, and then they cut the cord with the other person. And now I can't believe you did this. Wait, we ain't been together for 8 years. Yeah, but you were the sneaky link for 6 of those 8 years. And that started over 2 years after y'all broke up. And I'm definitely not saying that's what y'all did, because you were clear that you were amicable, you cut ties, everything. But that is why certain situations become toxic, because of that. And I talked to Tamara earlier, and she talked about how wonderful things are for you. So I want to talk about not just how wonderful things are now, but have there ever been any situations where somebody was introduced that y'all didn't care for, or y'all didn't think they were right to be in your son's life? And how did y'all handle that? How did you handle? I'm gonna tell you something that happened to me. I'm not gonna talk anymore. I'm gonna let y'all talk, and I'm gonna tell y'all this story. Remind me if I may forget, but I'm gonna tell y'all something in a second. But I want to hear from you.
I think I'll go first on that, just because if I continued on with that story about how I felt like Bob had moved on quickly, so he ended up being with the girl for 8 years. They ended up having 2 kids out of that relationship. And her and our relationship we had the beef, like in the beginning. Like I just did not like her. I didn't have a good feel about her. What I did know, however, is that she loved my son. And so to me, once I would put that into perspective, everything else I felt about her didn't matter. And I felt like if she was the person that I was painting the picture to be in my mind, then his dad would see that one day. And he ultimately did. But in doing that, so he was with someone for 8 years, so that was different. So then myself, I start dating, and how did you feel like when I had someone else around Robert, like another guy around Robert?
I mean, I think we're back to the thing where I trusted your judgment, because I mean, you seemed to be kind of selective on who you would bring around it. So yeah. I trusted.
So like I would bring. So I ended up being in probably like 2 relationships, and I think both times, like I still would bring him around Bob, like family events, family functions. They were there. For me, it probably, I didn't consider that as much, and how that could, some of the people I was with maybe was a little intimidated by that situation.
Okay, so some of the guys were?
Yeah.
What did they do?
Oh, they faked it till they made it in front of him, like in front of everyone, like it was all great. I love the relationship that you and your son's father have. Like, man, I wish me and my kid's mom felt that, had that same bond. But then some of them, with probably a little bit of joy juice in their system, you would hear where the insecurity lies.
Going over there with Bob.
Yeah, like
I know.
And it's not even that he puts on an air of like arrogance or anything. Bob, this is probably the most I've heard Bob talk in my whole life being around him. Joking. So it's not like when we're in that setting, when it's all of us, that he's talking, he's boasting, he does well for himself, but he's never like bragging and putting that out there for people. And so to me, it was an insecurity within the men that I was dating, to where they felt like, okay, I can say all these things, but a drunk man don't tell no lies. And so when they would get a little alcohol in their system, you could hear that they didn't like that. And so one of them in particular tried to he felt like he couldn't live up to who Bob was. And I said, I'm not asking you to, but I realize now, that probably came because there should have been more of a boundary in between my friendship between Bob and then my relationship. And so then moving forward, he ended up, he's now with another girl, and they've been together, it's almost 4 years, maybe. He don't know, 3 or 4. So with that one, I am trying to learn more boundaries with our relationship. COVID, the whole pandemic, didn't help because, we're all around each other. My circle of friends is his circle of friends in some sense. So, and in COVID, it's not like we could go out and hang out. So we're at one another's houses, and that's fine for us because we're not looking at each other like that. But other people that are new to the situation be like, oh, okay,
what's going on here?
Yes. And
why I keep hee and a ha when ain't nobody looking.
Yeah. And we ain't looking at each other at all, so it's just like, but I had to do that. I had to learn and kind of put myself in other people's shoes, other women's shoes. But he and I did talk about it one time with the last guy I was with. And I just said, how do you tell people about our relationship? Because it's not conventional. It's not normal. And it could make people wonder, And he said, I won't say what he said, but I think we both ended up agreeing that it was like, just be honest about it. And if people are going to receive it how they receive it, and we'll just do our best to try to have some boundary around it.
Yes. So let's talk about, did you want to add something, Bob?
No, I was just going to say, we have pretty much the same circle of friends. She's close with my family just because her and my cousin are like sisters. So it's really close. So it's,
so she ain't going nowhere. If you're watching this, if there's anybody after the one that he's with now, she ain't going nowhere. Neither is he. So get y'all's life. Is that what y'all want to say? I said it.
No, that's not what we wanted to say.
I'm just kidding.
But I do fall back a little bit more. Birthday parties, like his kid's birthday party. He has 2 younger boys, and just being at their birthday parties. The woman he's with now, her kids having birthday parties. And I've been invited before, been over there for Easter, when I couldn't get home, especially during COVID. I think even Christmas one time, which we had never done Christmas together besides when he and I was together. But just even her opening up and having me and my mother there for Christmas, because the rest of my family couldn't be there because they all had COVID during the time. And it's those things that I do like the woman he's with now, but I do know that it still is uncomfortable, as nice as it seems. And I know as amicable as you say, as we are with each other, I still know that she probably has, I won't say reservation, but she probably feels like there has to be
a little cautious.
We've actually talked about it before. And so I try to respect that as much as I can.
That's wonderful. So let me tell you my story. Are y'all ready for story time?
Story time.
Okay. So it was about, 10 years ago. No, 9 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago. And my ex-husband and I had recently divorced, and he was engaged. And I'm trying this co-parenting thing. It was literally maybe like 5 months after our divorce was final. He was engaged. It wasn't even 5 months. 4 months after our divorce was final, he was engaged to someone else. And so we were at a basketball game, and my son was not doing his work. He was going over his dad's house on the weekend. He was not doing his homework. And so she was there every single weekend. I'm thinking mother to mother, woman to woman. I'm going to go introduce myself to her and let her know that my son had some work he was not completing, because I was a person that stayed on the parent portal. I knew everything that was going on. He was not doing his work. So I was like, hey, my name is Monica. I know you know who I am. I said, but she was like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I was like, okay, everybody take a deep breath and relax. It's okay. I said, I just wanted to introduce myself to you. And like, what are you, what? Oh yeah, oh yeah. I said, okay, calm down. I just want you to know that Jacob has a project this weekend. And I was like, what is happening to this woman? They had that woman scared to death of me. And all I was trying to do, was get my son to do his homework. That was all. Like that, just he has a project due on Monday. I have the supplies. Can you make sure he gets it done?
And I have the supplies.
I have the supplies. They're going to go in his bag. When he goes over there, just have him get it out. But I love how you said, you're talking about the boundaries and communicating who you are to each other. Now, I couldn't communicate that because it was a toxic situation. So I have no idea why that woman was ready to spit fire and run for her life. I have no idea. But I can assume that it was shared with her some stuff about me that she either wasn't true, that she shouldn't have been privy to, whatever the case was, she reacted to what she had heard. So it's very important that when you communicate from a healthy standpoint and not to turn one against the other. Because that's horrible, because the kids see that.
Yeah.
The kids see that.
Yeah.
All right. Y'all got nothing to say?
I think that, he knows exactly. Like I said, I have one kid, but he has another, like I said, 2 other boys. And if we're being honest, I know that his situation and that is not the same as the situation with me. And so he's getting both sides of it. So he's getting like, I'm gonna say I'm great baby mama, even though we don't call each other that. And the other one is not that she's not a great mother. She just, some people, like you said, if you still have feelings, if you're bitter about how things play out, then you're going to do things that are, perceived as spiteful or things that are just not healthy for y'all's relationship. And so everybody is not mature in a sense to handle that.
Yeah. There's guilt, there's jealousy, there's insecurity, there's all the emotions that are connected to whether things end amicably or if there was a level of toxicity. If there's any ounce of a feeling that's still there, those other emotions normally rise their heads, unless someone has mental illness and then they can't help it. But that's typically what it is, which is why when you introduce someone new to a relationship, you've got to let them know, okay, this is what's happening here. This is how we are. This is how we're going to be for our son. You have nothing to worry about. I care for you. Or if you're at this level, I love you. And I just want you to know that I want us to be have a healthy unit. So you have children, they have a father, they can come too. Like we're doing this thing together. I remember I saw this video on, I think it was YouTube or something like that, where it was like the mom and the dad and then their spouses and then their kids and everybody went to the same basketball game. And the mom's side of the family had on white t-shirts with the son's name, and the dad's side of the family had black t-shirts with the son's name. And they were all sitting together cheering on. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. And
just recently we all went on a vacation together. Like
that is wonderful.
We didn't stay in the same house, but we were all there together. Ultimately, I think it has just helped our son for sure.
Let's bring Robert on the stage. Is he available? I know he's been itching to say something. Oh, he's not. I thought he was sitting next to you.
I think because we talked to Robert, and I've asked him before. It was years ago, but like, did he feel away because his mother and father were not together? Did he want that, or did he wish for that to be? And then if not, like, are you okay with the dynamics of our relationship?
See, that is so healthy. I love that.
But I think, Monica, Dr. Hunter, sorry.
You're fine. You're
I
fine.
think where that comes from is being in education and me seeing kids constantly that are, where we have parents coming up, like, I'm taking them today, and then you gotta bring police and stuff in. Like, there's levels to this that you see, and you're like, I would never want this for my son. I don't care.
Never.
I don't like putting adult issues and adult stress and problems on kids, and I see that too often. And so even if his first cousin, my best friend, sis now, even if she wasn't in the picture, I would hope that my reaction would still be the same, and knowing that I got to do what's best for my son.
Yeah,
Come
absolutely.
here, son. Dr. Hunter wants to see you. Oh, you've been over here doing all the antics. Come on.
Yeah, come on, Pumpkin. There he is. There's Robert Jr. There he is. All right. So how has it been having such wonderful parents that put you at the center of everything that they do?
It's good. I'm glad that it's different than most other co-parenting situations.
You got a man, I can tell. Yeah, he's articulate. Co-parenting situations. I like that. What is
it that you appreciate about how we have been able to co-parent? What part do you appreciate most? Especially knowing that you see another side of that in a different situation.
I'm glad it's tailored to me. Like, they don't just do things without me. I'm not gonna say approve because they're the parents, but like they get my input on most things that they do.
That's wonderful. There's so many kids, and I know that you're a young adult, but whose voices are stifled because their parents don't trust their ability to make decisions. And so that's even invaluable that you all include him in decision making, and you make him feel like he's a part of his life, because some parents don't do that. I make the decisions, I say what's happening, and that's also toxic, because what happens is the child tends to lean more towards one than the other if they don't feel healthy or if they don't feel safe with one over the other. So that is wonderful. Give yourselves a round of applause. I'm so happy because our community needs to see more of this. You know what I mean? This does not happen. Even with the people who have all the money in the world, from them on down to people who are struggling and everybody in between, there's always toxicity when there's a separation. Not 100% of the time, but there's most of the time there's a level of toxicity until the healing happens. And it seems like you all made the decision at the very beginning to put your son first at the center of your life, and you formulated a plan which allows other people to come into the space with boundaries, with an understanding of who you are together and who you are for your son. And that is invaluable. So I really do appreciate you all for sharing with the audience. Y'all have any last words?
For me, I would just like to say, and his dad and I have discussed this, where I love that you're doing this. I love that this conversation is happening. We have talked about playing and just having followed through with having our own some own podcast, or even a book, just to help. Because as we said, nothing was great at the beginning of a separation. At the end of the day, it is a broken home. But what can you make of it, and how can you make that better, and how you can always, as long as you have the kids' best interests at heart, it is very possible. It is necessary. Our communities need it. As I said, I see it all the time in the schools. 3 incidents today, and I really hope and pray that this reaches someone, and that they are able to learn something from it, so that they can understand this is very, very possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob?
No, she hit it on the head. I mean, it's all about putting the kids first. They didn't ask to be here, so you brought them here. You gotta raise them up. You gotta do what you can to make sure you put them in the best situation and best trajectory as possible. So, no, that's what it is. As long as you keep the kids first, it makes everything a lot easier.
I love it. Go ahead.
Logic, you got to think logically.
Yes.
About what
You
you
can't
do.
always be emotional, ladies or gentlemen. You can't always be relax. Take a deep breath, relax, relate, and release,
Yep.
and everything will be okay.
Did
Robert,
you
would
hear
you like
her? She called you Bob. Did you hear it?
what?
You did.
You did. I didn't even pay
Called you
attention.
Bob. She was like,
I did. Robert Jr., would you like to share anything with the audience? Any final remarks?
No.
Well, I appreciate you for coming on screen. I know that was like last minute and you may have little jitters about being on here, but you did a wonderful job and I appreciate you. So we're going to end this episode of Silent No More, radio show and podcast with Dr. Monica. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Remember, you can reach me and hear me and the audience, and our guests every Saturday at 10 a.m. either on Facebook or the other platform that I forgot about, and I'm going to make sure that I put it in the post, but whatever. My mind is always gone. But I'll let y'all know where y'all can find it. But anyway, I appreciate you all for tuning in and have a wonderful rest of your Saturday.
thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.